So good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cambridge Genomics Meetup. This is an international group, which obviously has its roots in Cambridge, UK, but everyone is welcome. And especially this evening, where we're going to be talking about equity, diversity, and inclusion. This is our first meeting of the year. We have meetings like this every couple of months, depending on people's agendas as well as interest in topics. So this first year, New Year meeting is going to be, as I said, on equity, diversity, and inclusion, where we are going to have contributors from the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Group, and Regulatory Ethics Workstream Diversity Subgroup, which is a bit of a mouthful, I'm afraid, but it's very interesting because they'll be talking about ethics, diversity, and it's based on a manuscript, which we just have submitted and is probably going to be accepted very soon, and we'll share with all the community. And without further ado, I give this my word to Nirja, who is going to take over from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Manny. So to start, I'll just share my screen really quickly. Great. Okay, well, hello everyone. As Manny already said, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So my name is Nirja Skantaraja, and I am the Workstream Coordinator at the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health, also known as GA4GH. And today I'm joined by my colleagues, Marika Milner and Judith Kamudini. They are here representing the Regulatory and Ethics Workstream Diversity Subgroup, or RUS Diversity for short, and also the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Group, respectively. And as Manny mentioned, a lot of the content that we're going to be speaking today about is based on a manuscript that we have submitted about ensuring equity, diversity, and inclusion at GA4GH. And so it's really a snapshot about current efforts and where we are and where we're heading. But before we dive into that, I think it's really important that we're all on the same page about what GA4GH is and what our mission is. So we were founded in 2013 with a mission to accelerate progress in genomics by creating a common framework for responsible sharing of genomic and related health data. And so GA4GH aims to promote, or rather enable international data sharing, promote sharing across the translational continuum, encourage technology-enabled federated approaches, and promote interoperability. And we do this by convening the community at events, for example, plenary meetings that we hold, by creating standards and harmonized approaches to catalyze data sharing, and by also serving as a clearinghouse of information and knowledge across the community. And speaking of this community, here's a really a great infographic to explain the different portions of people within our ecosystem. So within our ecosystem, we have more than 650 organizational members, all committed to the mission of GA4GH. We also have representatives from more than 90 countries, more than 450 active participants, and 4,000 plus individual subscribers. And as I'll explain later, we consist of 8 work streams working closely with 24 driver projects and other initiatives around the world. And don't worry, I will explain what those groups mean a little bit later. And so far, this community has produced more than 20 technical standards and 9 regulatory policies and frameworks. And we are aware of at least 40 institutions around the world that have implemented or deployed our deliverables. And all of this together is how we help to enable this global learning health system. So as I said before, GA4GH is a collaboration between 24 key driver projects intersecting with 8 work streams. And here you can see what I mean by intersecting. So each of the horizontal rows here represents a GA4GH workstream. And you can see in the purple that they're categorized by foundational and technical workstreams. And these groups develop standards and tools that are designed to overcome technical and regulatory hurdles to international genomic data sharing. So just as an example, the data security workstream works to create technology standards and best practices for protecting data and services. The cloud workstream helps GA4GH driver projects take full advantage of modern cloud environments and create standards for defining, sharing, and executing portable workflows. So in this same way, each workstream has their area of specialty within which standards, policies, and frameworks are created. And now moving on to driver projects, those are represented in the vertical columns. And driver projects are by no means the only initiatives with which we work. They are simply those with which we have made a strategic commitment to participating in 2 or more of the work streams. And you can see that commitment reflected as the check marks on the diagram. And do note that not all driver projects participate in all work streams. And now we're going to get a bit more granular into the inner workings of work streams and driver projects. And this bit is pretty important for this conversation that we're about to have, because a lot of our EDI efforts are targeted towards the individuals within work streams. So as you know, work streams are internal GA4GH groups wherein standards development work actually takes place. And on the right side, driver projects are real-world external initiatives, and that includes initiatives such as Australian Genomics or ICGC Argo, and they exist outside the bounds of GA4GH. And organizations that are driver projects have this as part of their mission, an interest in genomic data sharing. And they commit to both contributing to the development of GA4GH standards and to piloting standards in real-world scenarios. So here you can see a geographic spread of our 24 driver projects. And driver projects really represent our strategy for ensuring that we meet the needs of as far-reaching a community as we can. And you'll see when it's laid out on a map like this, it looks very impressive. And that's not to say that it isn't impressive, it is. However, we're also aware that despite that impressive spread, the driver projects only really make up a small handful of more than 200 plus genomic data initiatives active around the world today. And so those are groups that are working within these specific topic areas. And so GA4GH is committed to addressing the pressing need for truly global participation by being accountable, taking responsibility, and recognizing areas such as this for improvement. And so in this spirit of holding a mirror up to ourselves, an activity that we undertook while creating this manuscript was determining the composition of individuals within our work streams and our steering committee. And so I'll go into that now. And so here we can see the GA4GH workstream composition. The first pie chart represents the number of volunteers the percentage of volunteers residing in Anglo versus non-Anglo countries. And as you can see, there's a large skew towards individuals within Anglo countries. And then on the right side, we have a gender identification breakdown of workstream and subgroup leads. And there's another skewed distribution here with a lot more representation of males than females. And if we go into these, the composition of steering committee, just for some background, the steering committee makes high-level decisions about GA4GH directions, values, and deliverables, and it consists of leaders from the technical and foundational work streams, as well as the driver projects. So when we're talking about steering committee, we're very much in a leadership space. And so when we're looking at Anglo versus non-Anglo countries, you can see it evens out a bit, which is great. However, we're still very much skewed towards increased male representation on the steering committee. And so now with all of that said, we recognize that there are areas for improvement, obviously, but we also want to take a minute to understand why do we need EDI at GA4GH and what are the benefits specifically to our organization. And so in doing that exercise, we realized that in the development phase of standards, global participation is key to ensuring that the standards produced address the needs of researchers, research participants, and patients. And not only that, but they can also be sustainably implemented worldwide. And so a broader perspective from the outset would lead to earlier recognition of potential challenges, encourage action on a wider range of considerations, and consequently lead to increasingly interoperable and compatible products. And after development, at implementation, global participation remains a crucial part of products as they're altered to reflect the implementer's language, context, and culture. And so improving global inclusion in the workspace and implementing appropriate mechanisms to embrace these differences will foster a positive attitude towards diversity and promote equitable sharing of both resources and opportunities amongst members. So we at GA4GH envision a future where an inclusive environment basically creates more effective standards that work across a spectrum of contexts, and they ultimately impact the public at large. And so with all of that in mind, I'll now move on to the steps that groups within GA4GH have begun to take in order to accomplish this larger vision. And so we have a fantastic infographic here created by our creative lead at GA4GH, Stephanie Lee. And so it's basically explaining that if our aim is equity, diversity, and inclusion, the way in which we're going to accomplish that is through this framework we have developed called Reflected in Our Teams, Reflected in Our Standards. And it's pretty intuitive. So basically, if EDI challenges are addressed and we have diverse perspectives within our teams, then those individuals that create our standards will make it so that our standards are also reflective of EDI issues. And with that being said, the Reflected in Our Teams portion, initiatives that are addressing that include onboarding and participation levels, and those initiatives are really helmed by the EDI Advisory Group. And on the right side, Reflected in Our Standards, the initiatives that address that are Equity by Design, and those initiatives are helmed by the RUSE Diversity Group. And so I cannot go on speaking about these groups without first recognizing the leadership behind these groups. And so for the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Group, the individuals really leading those efforts are Laura Paglione and Melissa Konopko. And in the RUSE Diversity subgroup, we have our leads Michael Beauvais and Mavis Makirori. And with that, I will be passing it over to Marika to give us a little snapshot of what's happening at RUSE Diversity subgroup.
So RUSE is usually responsible for the ethical, legal, and social applications of international data sharing. And usually they focus on developing ethical and legal tools of international genomics research. They assess outputs of work streams through ethical questionnaires, and mostly the EDI-related questions are currently post facto assessed, so at the end of the development process. And this has been recognized as a problem because it doesn't open up discussion or a conversation, since their EDI questions are only asked when the product is already finished. And the decision was that EDI should be integrated during the whole development process, and this was the event that kind of triggered the setup of the EDI subgroup. They currently offer mainly expertise on EDI, and the legitimacy in enforcing the standards is still unclear. We have been mainly busy conceptualizing the broader meaning of EDI last year, and we are currently trying to integrate EDI more into the policy framework of GA4GH. Our first output was, is the next slide. Our first output, as I said, just now is the conceptualizing equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we saw these as interconnected terms, which kind of begin with the absence of exclusion and are founded on intention and advocacy. Equity, I will summarize our definitions. The whole definitions you can read on the slides, but equity, we saw equity as the removal of systematic barriers and biases, and as a way that all people benefit from science. Diversity is mainly concerned with embracing differences. And as you can see in the slide, differences means language, ethnicity, race, age, and you can go on. And inclusion is to make people feel welcomed and empowered within GA4GH. What was very important to us was that these terms are fluid, not fixed. So there's room for growth and inclusive practice. And we also wanted to keep evidence of these changes we make throughout the years so that we can also make the growth visible, how our understanding has changed, and also how the groups within GA4GH have changed. Then the second output we are currently working on is the creation of guidelines addressing EDI for product development. This is an active project. It's currently taking place in January, and these guidelines are mainly created through deliberation with stakeholders. So work stream leads have an input, but also the Global Health Investment Fund. And the product we want to produce should be translatable and transferable across several work contexts so that it can be used in other organizations outside of GA4GH as well. And my colleague Judith will continue.
Thank you, Marika and Nirja. I hope you can all hear me. My background is in bioinformatics, and I'm one of the co-PI of H3A BioNets. It's a Pan-African bioinformatics network in Africa. We are part of H3 Africa, which is one of the driver projects of GA4GH. I'm going to be talking about the advisory group of EDI. Next slide, please. Hi, so here I want to give you an overview of the work that we have been doing in the past 2 years since our advisory group was set up. What are our core values and how are we aiming to tackle the issues that have been raised by the last two speakers, and what are the activities, current activities and ongoing activities and future activities. So we have launched our advisory group in May 2020, and the goal was of recognizing and responding to the issues that were raised within the GA4GH community, which was long overdue from global genomic research perspective, and also to support finding equitable and inclusive way to bring bright, diverse ideas and experience into the standard creation process through various pathways. Some of the activities that we have been already embarked on and completed in last year, April, is our onboarding program. And the other, one of the many other is participation component. So the onboarding program is as the name suggests, is to making the newcomer welcomed and inclusive, and their opinion and views are valued, and empower them to contribute and be a natural leader, so to speak. So we we recognize that having low retention of new members mean low diversity and low viewpoint. And we wanted to enhance that and increase that, and what we can do. We came up with these workstream guides, which had been working pretty well. Next slide, please. This is to overcome the initial barrier. So that will make this internal workstream meetings are more like a dinner party. You can all relate to a situation where you bring in a new friend to a all friend party, where we would have quite a lot of background stories and jokes, etc., within the all group, and plans that you know. So you want to welcome the newcomer and guide them through and explain. It's a similar analogy here. This is what the advisory group has proposed, and I'm going to share with you some of the results, how we have benefited from. Next slide, please. Yes. So the one of the outcome of the onboarding program is we have 9 volunteer guides as part of the advisory group, and also we have helped 12 new contributors supported by the onboarding program. We can see the names of the guide. They're quite broad from where they come from. Next slide, please. And we have some future projects, and I've highlighted a few here. And this is like sort of a tip of the iceberg in terms of what is also coming in future. This has been discussed, and some of the projects are already underway and currently ongoing. So these are areas where both the greatest need and the highest potential for positive impact on our intentional community. So this was agreed through various meetings and discussions, as well as surveys to the community and carrying out a workshop. Even though there are about 11 other projects, I've highlighted a few of my favorites here. So one is defining EDI definition. I think Marika went through that, so that is sort of already had happened. And one of the current ongoing projects is the workstream meeting best practices, where we help identify various aspects of how to welcome a new member, how to produce material that will have long-lasting and highest impacts, reducing the technical lingo, making GitHub forum a little bit more friendlier, etc., and recognizing participation within standards and workstream and volunteer groups. Next slide, please. And the workstream best practices, as I said, is an ongoing project, and the purpose here is intentional engagement to enhance contribution and recognize contributors, and is aimed at participation, engagement, and development of specific considerations. That's what we are currently focusing on, and we are currently discussing how to deploy that to the in what format and forum to the community. It's yet to be decided. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes, so there are many ways to get involved and become part of the community, GA4GH community, either as a subscriber or a contributor to the activities, workstream activities, or volunteering to take part in our meetings and activities thereon. Please email secretariat@ga4gh.org. Next slide, please. Yes, so we would like to acknowledge the authors of the manuscript that we have submitted so far. That was one of the outcome of how do we proliferate this knowledge and what our intentions are, what our activities are, and how to get involved. And again, thank you for the authors, and we would hope to do a few more in the future. Next slide, please. Yes, so thank you for inviting us to give this talk, and we would like to take any questions that how you can get involved and what you do in your organization to enhance the EDI friendliness Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks, everyone.
So here's a question. Do you guys have some way of communicating? You know, I think that there are like Slack channels, or how is it possible for anyone to join via those channels?
Yeah, fantastic question. Oh, is there more to your question? Please ask it.
No, carry on. You speak first.
Okay, sure. So yeah, in terms of joining, absolutely anyone can join. What we usually do is if you send an email to secretariat@ga4gh.org, then someone on the GA4GH Secretariat will be in touch with you with information about the different work streams, and they'll work with you to kind of determine what work stream would be best for you to join. And then from there, yeah, absolutely, once you've joined a work stream, which consists of us basically adding you to the mailing list, you can start receiving meeting reminders, and we can from there add you onto those Slack channels as well.
Thank you.
So let me just put the email of Secretariat into the chat, so you can email us if you'd like to join.
Hi, is it right if I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So it's very basic, so I'm sorry for asking such a silly question, but I'm sorry if I missed it as well. It's done in the talks, but I'm not, what is a work stream?
No, that's a great question. We did go over it a little bit quickly, so I'm glad you asked it. So a work stream, you can think of it as a working group where individuals get together, and that's where the standards are developed. So we have 8 work streams. Some of them are foundational, some of them are more technical. So the foundational ones include data security and regulatory and ethics. And so those work streams really work on those topic areas and creating standards within those topic areas in order for us to be able to enable that sharing of genomic data. And then when you're looking at the more technical work streams, like cloud work streams and large-scale genomics, they work within their specific areas to create standards to the same effect. And so I can send you a link actually to our webpage, which explains more about kind of what a work stream is, and it gives you more details about each specific work stream. So did that kind of answer your question? They're basically working groups that create the standard.
Yeah, I think so. I think I was getting a bit too bogged down in jargon, but it's actually quite simple underneath it.
Yes. Thank you for asking.
Good. So we are a few of us now, and I'd like to propose the following. So I'm going to stop the recording there.